Maria Santos pressed her worn sneakers against the cold bus floor and watched her breath fog up the window. The yellow school bus rumbled through the fancy neighborhood where big houses sat behind perfect green lawns. She counted the houses as they passed by. 1, 2, 3, 4. Each house was bigger than the tiny apartment where she lived with her mother and little brother. The bus stopped at Lincoln Middle School, and Maria grabbed her old backpack. The zipper was broken, so she had to hold it closed with her arms. She stepped off the bus and looked up at the tall brick building. The school was much nicer than her old school in the city. Everything here looked clean and new. Maria walked through the front doors and felt everyone's eyes on her. Her jeans had holes in the knees, not the kind that cost extra money at the store, but real holes from wearing them too much. Her sneakers were held together with gray tape that her mother had wrapped around the sides. She tried to walk normally, but the tape made a soft squeaking sound with each step. In the hallway, groups of students talked and laughed together. Maria saw Katie Wells standing with her friends near the water fountain. Katie had long blonde hair and wore a pink sweater that looked brand new. She whispered something to her friends and they all looked at Maria. Maria quickly looked away and hurried to her locker. Her locker was number 247, right between two other lockers that belonged to Brad Thompson and Amy Davis. Brad was tall and played on the basketball team. Amy was pretty and always raised her hand in class. They both looked at Maria like she didn't belong there. Maria opened her locker and put her lunch inside. It was a peanut butter sandwich wrapped in a plastic bag that her mother had washed and used many times before. She had seen other kids throw away their brown paper lunch bags, but her family used everything until it fell apart. The first bell rang and Maria walked to her English class. She sat in the back row and tried to make herself invisible. Mrs. Johnson, the teacher, was kind and always smiled at Maria, but Maria still felt different from everyone else. During lunchtime, Maria sat alone at a table in the corner of the cafeteria. She unwrapped her sandwich and ate slowly, watching the other students. They sat in groups and talked about things like weekend plans and birthday parties. Nobody had invited Maria to any parties. Nobody had asked her to sit with them. Ryan Clark walked by her table with his friends. He was one of the popular boys who always had something funny to say. He looked at Maria's sandwich and made a face. "Is that all you're eating?" he asked loudly. His friends laughed, and Maria felt her cheeks turn red. She wrapped up the rest of her sandwich and put it back in the plastic bag. After lunch, Maria went to her favorite class, which was music. Mr. Peterson was the music teacher, and he made everyone feel welcome. He was an older man with gray hair and kind eyes. He always said that music was for everyone, no matter where they came from. The music room was full of instruments. There were shiny trumpets and smooth clarinets in glass cases. The piano in the corner was black and beautiful. Maria loved to look at all the instruments, but she had never touched any of them. Her family could not afford music lessons or an instrument to practice with. Mr. Peterson talked about the spring concert that was coming up. He said that students could sign up to perform solo pieces if they wanted to. Maria listened carefully, but she knew she would never sign up. She didn't know how to play any instruments. Kevin Martinez sat 2 seats away from Maria. He was one of the most popular boys in school. His father owned a big company in town, and Kevin always had the newest clothes and the coolest shoes. He played the guitar and was very good at it. Everyone said he would probably get a music scholarship to college. Kevin looked at Maria and whispered to his friend next to him. They both started laughing. Maria pretended not to notice, but her stomach felt tight and sick. After school, Maria waited for the bus by herself. She watched other students get picked up by their parents in nice cars. Some students had their own cars, even though they were only in middle school. Maria's mother worked 2 jobs and could not pick her up from school. The bus ride home took 30 minutes. Maria looked out the window as they drove past the big houses and into the part of town where she lived. The houses got smaller and older. Some had broken windows or yards full of weeds. The bus stopped at the corner near her apartment building. Maria climbed the stairs to the 2nd floor and used her key to open the door. The apartment was quiet because her mother was at work. Her little brother Danny was at the neighbor's house until their mother came home. Maria sat at the small kitchen table and did her homework. The table was wobbly, and she had to put a folded piece of paper under one leg to keep it steady. She could hear music coming from the apartment upstairs. Someone was playing the piano, and it sounded beautiful. Maria closed her eyes and listened to the music. It made her feel calm and happy, even though she had felt sad all day at school. She wished she could make music like that. She wished she could play an instrument and make beautiful sounds that would make people smile instead of laugh at her. When her mother came home from her first job, she was tired and her feet hurt. Rosa Santos worked as a cleaner at the hospital from 11 at night until 7 in the morning. Then she came home and slept for a few hours before going to her second job at a restaurant. "How was school today, mija?" her mother asked in Spanish. She always spoke Spanish at home because it was easier for her than English. "It was okay, Mama," Maria answered. She didn't want to tell her mother about the other students laughing at her lunch or whispering behind her back. Her mother worked so hard to give Maria and Danny a better life. Maria didn't want to make her feel bad. That night, Maria lay in her bed and listened to the sounds of the apartment building. She could hear the neighbor's television and someone walking up the stairs. She thought about the music class and all, the beautiful instruments. She wondered what it would feel like to hold a violin or sit at the piano. Maria made a promise to herself that night. Someday she would learn to play music. Someday she would show everyone that she was more than just the poor girl with the old clothes and broken shoes. She would show them that she had something special inside her, something that money could not buy. 2 weeks had passed since Maria started at Lincoln Middle School, and things had not gotten better. Every morning she still sat alone on the bus. Every lunchtime, she still ate by herself. The other students had stopped staring at her, but that was only because they pretended she was not there at all. Maria walked into music class on a gray Tuesday morning. Mr. Peterson stood at the front of the room with a big smile on his face. He was holding a piece of paper and looked very excited about something. "Good morning, class," Mr. Peterson said. "I have wonderful news to share with you today. The school has received a donation of musical instruments from families in our community. These instruments need new homes with students who will love them and take care of them." Kevin Martinez raised his hand. "What kind of instruments, Mr. Peterson?" "We have a trumpet, 2 flutes, a clarinet, and an old violin," the teacher answered. "These instruments are not brand new, but they are in good condition and ready to make beautiful music again." The students started talking excitedly. Lisa Brown, who always tried to be nice to everyone, asked if she could see the flute. Amy Davis wanted to try the clarinet. Everyone seemed interested in the donated instruments. Mr. Peterson walked to the storage room at the back of the classroom. He came back carrying several instrument cases. The trumpet case was black and shiny. The flute cases were small and neat. The clarinet case looked well cared for. But the violin case was different. It was old and scratched, with worn edges and a broken latch that was held together with a rubber band. "These instruments are available for students who want to learn," Mr. Peterson said. "You would need to practice every day and take good care of them. Music requires dedication and hard work." Kevin Martinez looked at the old violin case and started to grin. He nudged his friend Jake Miller, who sat next to him. They both started whispering and giggling. Maria could see them looking in her direction, but she tried to ignore them. Mr. Peterson continued talking about the responsibility of borrowing an instrument. He explained that students would need to sign a contract promising to practice and bring the instruments to school safely each day. Kevin raised his hand again. "Mr. Peterson, who do you think should get the violin?" he asked with a sneaky smile. "Well, Kevin, any student who is serious about learning music could apply for it," Mr. Peterson answered. Kevin turned around in his chair and looked directly at Maria. His voice got louder so everyone could hear him. "I think the new girl should take the violin. She probably can't afford to buy her own instrument anyway, so this old one would be perfect for her." The room got very quiet. Maria felt her face turn hot and red. She looked down at her desk and wished she could disappear. Kevin's friends started to snicker and whisper among themselves. "Yeah, that's a great idea," said Brad Thompson. "Maria should totally play the violin." "She could be in the school concert," added Amy Davis with a little laugh. That would be so interesting. Even Lisa Brown, who was usually kind, could not hide the small smile on her face. Maria felt like everyone in the room was looking at her and thinking mean things. Mr. Peterson seemed to understand what was happening. His face became serious, and he looked at Kevin with disappointment. Kevin, that's enough. Musical instruments should go to students who genuinely want to learn, not based on cruel suggestions. But Kevin was not finished. I'm not being cruel, Mr. Peterson, I'm just trying to help. Maria looks like she loves music, don't you, Maria? Maria wanted to say something back, but no words came out. She felt small and embarrassed. Her hands were shaking under her desk. In fact, Kevin continued, I think Maria should sign up for the spring talent show too. She could play the violin for everyone. Wouldn't that be amazing? More students started to laugh. Maria heard someone say, "Oh, my gosh, can you imagine?" Another student whispered, "This is going to be so funny." The bell rang and students started packing up their things. As they left the classroom, Maria heard Kevin talking to his friends in the hallway. "I'm totally going to sign her up for the talent show," Kevin said. "This is going to be hilarious. She'll get up there with that old violin and not know how to play anything. Everyone will see what a joke she is." "That's kind of mean, isn't it?" Jake Miller asked. "It's not mean if it's funny," Kevin replied. "Besides, she needs to learn her place around here." Maria stayed in her seat until everyone else had left. Her eyes were full of tears, but she did not want anyone to see her cry. Mr. Peterson walked over to her desk and sat down in the chair next to her. "Maria, I'm sorry about what just happened," he said gently. "Kevin was being unkind, and that behavior is not acceptable in my classroom." Maria finally looked up at her teacher. "It's okay, Mr. Peterson. I'm used to it." "No, it's not okay," Mr. Peterson said firmly. "And you should never have to get used to being treated that way." Maria looked toward the storage room where the violin case was sitting. Something inside her felt drawn to it, despite everything that had just happened. "Mr. Peterson," she said quietly, Could I see the violin?" The teacher looked surprised but pleased. "Of course, Maria. Would you like to hold it?" They walked to the storage room together. Mr. Peterson picked up the old violin case and set it on a desk. He opened it carefully, and Maria saw the violin for the first time. It was not beautiful like the instruments in the display cases. The wood was dark and had small scratches all over it. One of the strings looked newer than the others, like it had been replaced recently. The bow was old and some of the horsehair was missing. But when Maria looked at the violin, she did not see something old and broken. She saw something that had once made beautiful music. She imagined all the songs it had played and all the people who had listened to those songs. "Can I touch it?" Maria asked. "Absolutely," Mr. Peterson said. "Pick it up. See how it feels." Maria lifted the violin out of its case. It was lighter than she expected. She held it the way she had seen musicians hold violins on television, with the bottom part resting on her shoulder and her chin touching the top. "It fits you well," Mr. Peterson said with a smile. "You look natural holding it." Maria felt something special when she held the violin. It was like the instrument belonged in her hands. She forgot about Kevin's mean words and the other students' laughter. For a moment she felt peaceful and happy. "Mr. Peterson," Maria said, still holding the violin, "if someone wanted to learn to play this, how would they do it?" "Well, they would need to practice every day," he answered. "They would need to learn how to hold the bow and where to put their fingers on the strings. It takes time and patience, but anyone can learn if they really want to." Maria looked down at the violin in her hands. She made a decision that would change everything. "I want to learn," she said. "I want to borrow this violin and learn how to play it." Mr. Peterson's face lit up with joy. "Are you sure, Maria? It will be a lot of hard work." "I'm sure," Maria said. "And Mr. Peterson, I think I want to sign up for the talent show too." Maria carried the old violin case home on the bus that afternoon. She held it carefully on her lap and tried not to think about the whispers she heard behind her. Kevin Martinez had made sure everyone knew about her decision to borrow the instrument. He told anyone who would listen, that the poor girl was going to embarrass herself at the talent show. "This is going to be better than television," Kevin had said loudly in the hallway. "She's never even touched a violin before. She's going to get up there and make horrible noises." But Maria blocked out the mean words. She was thinking about the moment when she first held the violin in Mr. Peterson's classroom. Something had felt right about it, like the instrument was waiting for her to find it. When Maria got home, her mother was getting ready for her evening job at the restaurant. Rosa Santos looked tired, but she always tried to smile when Maria walked through the door. "What is that, mija?" her mother asked, pointing to the violin case. "It's a violin, Mama. The school let me borrow it to learn how to play," Maria explained in Spanish. Rosa's face showed worry. "But Maria, we cannot afford lessons, and we do not know anything about music." "I know, Mama, but I want to try. I think I can learn by myself," Maria said. Her mother sighed but nodded. Rosa Santos had learned to trust her daughter's determination. If Maria said she could do something, she usually found a way to make it happen. After her mother left for work and her little brother Danny went to bed, Maria opened the violin case in her bedroom. She took out the instrument and held it the way Mr. Peterson had shown her. Then she picked up the bow and drew it across the strings. The sound was terrible. It was loud and scratchy, like a cat crying. Maria quickly stopped and looked toward the thin walls of their apartment. She hoped she had not woken up Danny or bothered the neighbors. Maria tried again, but more gently this time. The sound was still not good, but it was quieter. She spent an hour just trying to make one string sound decent. Her arm got tired from holding the violin, and her fingers hurt from pressing the strings. The next day at school, Kevin asked her in front of everyone how her violin practice was going. "Are you ready for your big performance yet, Maria?" he said with a mean grin. "I'm working on it," Maria replied quietly. "I bet you are," Kevin laughed. "I signed you up for the talent show yesterday. Your name is on the list. I can't wait to see what song you're going to play." Maria felt scared when she heard this, but she also felt determined. Kevin thought he was playing a joke on her, but Maria was going to turn his joke into something real. That night, Maria went to the public library after school. She found books about learning to play the violin. Most of the books were too hard for her to understand, but she found one called Violin for Beginners that had simple pictures and instructions. Maria checked out the book and took it home. She read about how to hold the bow correctly and where to place her fingers on the strings. She learned that each string had a name: G, D, A, and E. She practiced holding the violin and bow the right way before she even tried to make any sounds. On her third night of practice, something amazing happened. Maria was trying to play just one note, the way the book showed her. She pressed her finger down on the G string and drew the bow across it very slowly and carefully. The sound that came out was clear and sweet. It was not scratchy or ugly. It was a real musical note. Maria's heart jumped with excitement. She played the same note again and again just to hear that beautiful sound. Then she tried the other strings. Each one made a different sound, but when she was careful and gentle, they all sounded like real music. Mrs. Adams, the elderly woman who lived in the apartment next door, heard the music through the thin walls. The next evening, she knocked on Maria's door. "Hello, dear," Mrs. Adams said when Maria opened the door. "I've been hearing you practice the violin. It sounds lovely." Maria felt embarrassed. "I'm sorry if I'm being too noisy. I try to play quietly." "Oh, no, dear. You're not too noisy at all," Mrs. Adams said with a kind smile. "I was a music teacher for 30 years before I retired. I know the sound of someone with natural talent when I hear it." Maria could not believe what she was hearing. "Really? Do you think I have talent?" "I certainly do," Mrs. Adams said. "Would you like some help? I could give you a few tips to make your practice more effective." From that night on, Mrs. Adams became Maria's secret music teacher. Every evening after Maria's mother left for work, Mrs. Adams would come over for 30 minutes. She showed Maria how to hold her bow better and how to make her fingers move more smoothly on the strings. You have very good ears, Maria, Mrs. Adams told her. You can hear when a note is right or wrong. That's a gift that not everyone has. Mrs. Adams taught Maria her first real song. It was called Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, and it only used a few notes. At first, Maria could only play it very slowly, with long pauses between each note. But after a week of practice, she could play the whole song without stopping. Maria was so excited that she almost cried. She had made real music. She had played a song that people would recognize. That was beautiful, dear, Mrs. Adams said. But now you need to learn something more challenging for your talent show. Mrs. Adams suggested a piece called Amazing Grace. It was harder than Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, but Mrs. Adams said it was perfect for someone with Maria's natural ability. This song touches people's hearts, Mrs. Adams explained. When you play it with feeling, it makes people think about hope and beauty. That's what good music does. Learning Amazing Grace was much harder. Maria had to press her fingers in new places and move the bow in different ways. Some nights, she wanted to give up because it sounded so bad. But Mrs. Adams encouraged her to keep trying. Every musician goes through this, Mrs. Adams said. The violin is fighting you right now, but soon it will become your friend. You just have to be patient. Slowly, the song began to sound better. Maria learned to make her bow movements smooth and even. She learned to press the strings firmly, but not too hard. Most importantly, she learned to feel the music in her heart while she played. At school, Kevin continued to make jokes about Maria's upcoming performance. He told everyone that he had heard her practicing through her apartment windows, and that she sounded like a dying animal. You guys are going to love this, Kevin said to his friends at lunch. She actually thinks she's going to play real music. This is going to be the funniest thing ever. But Maria did not let Kevin's words hurt her anymore. Every night when she picked up her violin, she felt stronger and more confident. The music was becoming part of her. She was discovering something inside herself that she never knew existed. 3 weeks before the talent show, Maria played Amazing Grace all the way through without making any mistakes. Mrs. Adams had tears in her eyes when Maria finished. That was perfect, dear, Mrs. Adams whispered. You have found your gift. Now you need to trust it and let it shine. Maria knew that Mrs. Adams was right. She had found something special inside herself. Kevin Martinez thought he was setting her up for embarrassment, but he had actually given her the greatest gift of her life. He had led her to discover that she was a musician. The night of the talent show arrived faster than Maria had expected. She woke up that morning with butterflies dancing in her stomach. For weeks, she had been practicing Amazing Grace every night, and Mrs. Adams said she was ready. But Maria still felt nervous about playing in front of the whole school. At breakfast, her mother noticed that Maria was not eating much. Are you okay, mija? Rosa asked, sitting down next to her daughter. I'm scared, Mama, Maria admitted. What if I make mistakes? What if everyone laughs at me? Rosa put her arm around Maria's shoulders. Listen to me, mi amor. You have been working so hard. I hear you practicing every night and it sounds beautiful. You should be proud of yourself no matter what happens tonight. Maria hugged her mother tight. She wished Rosa could come to the talent show, but her mother had to work at the hospital that night. Danny would stay with Mrs. Adams while Maria was at school. During the school day, Maria tried to act normal, but it was hard to concentrate. In math class, she kept thinking about the violin piece she would play that evening. In English class, she imagined herself on the stage in front of hundreds of people. At lunch, Kevin Martinez walked up to Maria's table with a big smile on his face. He was carrying a piece of paper in his hands. Hey, Maria, Kevin said loudly so other students could hear. I just wanted to show you the program for tonight's talent show. Look, your name is right here. He pointed to a line that said, Maria Santos, violin performance. Thanks, Maria said quietly, not looking up from her sandwich. I'm really excited to hear you play, Kevin continued with fake enthusiasm. I told my whole family to come tonight. My dad even brought his video camera so we can record your performance. This is going to be so good. Kevin's friends Jake Miller and Brad Thompson were standing behind him, trying not to laugh out loud. Maria could see other students at nearby tables turning to listen to the conversation. "What song are you going to play?" Brad asked with a smirk. "Amazing Grace," Maria answered honestly. "Oh wow, that's a real song," Jake said, sounding surprised. "Are you sure you can play a whole real song?" "She's probably just going to stand there and pretend," Kevin whispered, but loud enough for Maria to hear. "There's no way she actually learned how to play the violin in just a few weeks." After lunch, Maria went to the music room to practice one more time. Mr. Peterson let her use the empty classroom during study hall. She opened her violin case and took out the old instrument that had become like a friend to her. As she played, Amazing Grace in the quiet room, Maria felt calm for the first time all day. The music flowed out of the violin like it was the most natural thing in the world. Her fingers knew exactly where to go on the strings, and her bow moved smoothly across them. "That was beautiful, Maria," said a voice from the doorway. Maria turned around and saw Mr. Peterson standing there with a big smile on his face. "I've been listening to you practice for the past few weeks," he said. "You have made incredible progress. I'm very proud of you." "Thank you, Mr. Peterson. But I'm still nervous about tonight," Maria admitted. "That's normal," the teacher said. "Every musician feels nervous before a performance, but remember, when you get on that stage, just focus on the music. Forget about the audience and play from your heart. The music will take care of everything else." That evening, the school auditorium filled up with parents, students, and teachers. The red curtains were closed, and bright lights shone down on the stage. Behind the curtains, students were getting ready for their performances. Maria sat in a chair backstage, holding her violin case on her lap. She could hear the audience talking and laughing on the other side of the curtain. It sounded like there were hundreds of people out there. Amy Davis was stretching nearby, getting ready for her dance routine. She was wearing a sparkly costume and looked very professional. Lisa Brown was practicing her piano piece on a small keyboard, her fingers moving quickly across the keys. Everyone seemed so confident and prepared. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Lincoln Middle School's annual talent show," announced Principal Johnson from the stage. The audience clapped loudly, and Maria felt her heart beating faster. The first few acts went well. Ryan Clark played a guitar song that everyone knew, and people sang along. Jennifer Park did a magic trick that made the audience gasp with surprise. Two girls from the drama club performed a funny scene that made everyone laugh. Then Maria heard the words she had been dreading. Next up, we have Maria Santos performing Amazing Grace on the violin. The audience got quiet and Maria heard some whispers. She knew people were wondering who she was and why they had never heard of her before. She stood up on shaky legs and walked toward the stage. As she stepped through the curtains, Maria saw the huge audience for the first time. The auditorium was packed with people. In the front rows, she could see Kevin Martinez sitting with his family. His father was holding a video camera, just like Kevin had said. Kevin was grinning and whispering something to his mother. Maria walked to the center of the stage and looked out at all the faces staring back at her. The stage lights were very bright, and she had to squint to see the audience clearly. She heard someone in the back say, "Who is that girl?" Another person whispered, "She looks nervous." Maria opened her violin case with trembling hands. She could hear her heart beating in her ears, and for a moment, she thought she might forget how to play. The old violin looked even more scratched and worn under the bright stage lights. She picked up the violin and bow and slowly placed the instrument under her chin. The audience became completely silent, waiting to hear what would happen next. Maria could see some people in the front row looking at each other with confused expressions, like they were wondering if this was some kind of joke. Kevin Martinez was still smiling, and he nudged his friend next to him. Maria could see him mouth the words, "This is going to be hilarious." Maria closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She remembered what Mr. Peterson had told her. Focus on the music and play from your heart. She remembered what Mrs. Adams had said. Trust your gift and let it shine. She placed her bow on the strings and began to play. The first note came out soft and clear. It floated across the silent auditorium like a whisper. Maria kept her eyes closed and let the music flow through her. The second note followed, then the third, each one more confident than the last. As she played the familiar melody of Amazing Grace, something magical happened. Maria forgot about the audience, forgot about Kevin's mean jokes, forgot about being nervous. There was only the music and the way it made her feel complete and peaceful. The violin sang under her fingers, producing sounds more beautiful than she had ever made in practice. Each note was perfect and clear, filled with emotion and meaning. The old violin seemed to come alive in her hands, as if it had been waiting its whole life for this moment. In the audience, the whispers stopped. People sat up straighter in their seats. Kevin's smile slowly disappeared from his face. His father kept the video camera running, but now he was recording something completely different from what he had expected. Maria played the entire song without opening her eyes, trusting her fingers to find the right notes and her heart to give them meaning. When she reached the final note, she held it long and sweet, letting it echo through the silent auditorium. Then she opened her eyes and saw something she never expected to see. The entire audience was staring at her in complete silence, and many people had tears in their eyes. For what felt like forever, the auditorium was completely silent. Maria stood on the stage holding her violin, looking out at hundreds of faces staring back at her. She could see tears shining in people's eyes under the bright lights. Even the tough-looking 8th grade boys in the back row had stopped talking and were sitting perfectly still. Then, somewhere in the middle of the audience, one person started clapping. The sound echoed through the quiet auditorium like a single raindrop, hitting a calm lake. Soon another person joined in, then another. Within seconds, the entire auditorium exploded with applause. People jumped to their feet, clapping and cheering louder than Maria had ever heard before. She looked toward the front row where Kevin Martinez was sitting. His mouth was hanging open, and he was not clapping. He looked shocked and confused, like he could not believe what he had just heard. Kevin's father was still holding his video camera, but now he was wiping tears from his eyes with his free hand. Kevin's mother was clapping enthusiastically and saying something to her husband that Maria could not hear over the noise. Mr. Peterson appeared on the stage next to Maria. He had tears streaming down his face, and he was clapping so hard that his hands must have hurt. He put his arm around Maria's shoulders and spoke into the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, Maria Santos," he announced, and the audience cheered even louder. Maria felt dizzy with happiness and surprise. She had never imagined that people would react this way to her music. She looked out at the audience and saw faces filled with joy and amazement. Some people were still crying, and others were smiling so big that their faces looked like they might break. As the applause finally died, down Maria walked off the stage on shaky legs. Other students who were waiting to perform looked at her with new respect in their eyes. Amy Davis, who had always ignored Maria before, came up to her with a big smile. "Maria, that was incredible," Amy said. "I had no idea you could play like that. You made me cry, and I never cry at school events." Lisa Brown was standing nearby and she nodded in agreement. "You're amazing, Maria. I've been taking piano lessons for 6 years, and I could never make people feel the way you just did with your music." More students came over to congratulate Maria. Ryan Clark, who had made fun of her lunch on her first day, shook her hand and said, "That was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. You have a real gift." But the person Maria was most curious about was Kevin Martinez. She looked around and saw him standing by himself near the back of the group. His friends Jake Miller and Brad Thompson had gone to talk to other people, leaving Kevin alone. Maria walked over to Kevin, still carrying her violin. When he saw her coming, his face turned red with embarrassment. "Kevin," Maria said quietly, "thank you." Kevin looked confused. "Thank me? For what?" "For suggesting that I should play the violin," Maria said with a gentle smile. "If you hadn't made that joke in music class, I never would have discovered that I love music." Kevin stared at her for a long moment. Then his shoulders dropped, and he looked down at his feet. "Maria, I'm really sorry. I was trying to be mean to you. I wanted you to look stupid in front of everyone." "I know," Maria said. "But sometimes good things can come from bad intentions. You helped me find something I didn't know I had." "But why are you being so nice to me?" Kevin asked. "I was horrible to you." Maria thought about this question. Because being angry takes too much energy. I'd rather use that energy to practice my violin. Kevin looked up at her with respect in his eyes. You're a better person than I am, Maria. And you're definitely a better musician than I'll ever be. After the talent show ended, people crowded around Maria to talk to her. Parents she had never met before came up to tell her how much they enjoyed her performance. Teachers from other classes introduced themselves and said they hoped to see her play again soon. Principal Johnson found Maria in the crowd and shook her hand. Maria, that was absolutely wonderful. I had no idea we had such a talented musician in our school. Would you be interested in playing at our graduation ceremony this year? Maria could hardly believe what she was hearing. Really? You want me to play at graduation? Absolutely, Principal Johnson said. We would be honored to have you perform. As people slowly left the auditorium, Mr. Peterson came over to Maria with a serious expression on his face. Maria, I need to talk to you about something important. There's a woman here who wants to meet you. Mr. Peterson led Maria to a tall woman with gray hair who was standing near the stage. The woman was well-dressed and had kind eyes that reminded Maria of Mrs. Adams. Maria, this is Mrs. Patterson, Mr. Peterson said. She teaches violin at the Music Conservatory downtown. Mrs. Patterson smiled and held out her hand to Maria. Hello, dear. I heard about your performance tonight and had to come see for myself. That was truly remarkable, playing for someone who has only been learning for a few weeks. Thank you, Maria said, feeling shy around this important-looking woman. Maria, I would like to offer you a scholarship to study violin with me. Mrs. Patterson said, you have natural talent that should be developed by a professional teacher. The scholarship would cover all your lessons and even provide you with a better violin to play. Maria's eyes grew wide with shock. A scholarship? For me? Yes, for you, Mrs. Patterson said with a warm smile. Talent like yours is rare, Maria. It would be a privilege to help you develop it. That night, Maria went home feeling like she was walking on clouds. Her mother was waiting up for her, even though she should have been sleeping before her night shift at the hospital. How did it go, mija? Rosa asked anxiously. Maria told her mother everything that had happened. She described the standing ovation, the tears in people's eyes, Kevin's apology, and most importantly, the scholarship offer from Mrs. Patterson. Rosa hugged her daughter tight and cried happy tears. I'm so proud of you, Maria. You never gave up, even when things were hard. 3 months later, Maria stood on the stage at graduation, playing Amazing Grace for all the graduating 8th graders and their families. This time, she was not nervous at all. She had learned that music was her gift, and gifts were meant to be shared. Kevin Martinez was sitting in the audience with his family. When Maria finished playing, he was the first person to stand up and clap. He had learned something important, too. Sometimes the people we try to hurt the most are the ones who end up teaching us the most about ourselves. After the ceremony, a local newspaper reporter interviewed Maria about her story. The headline in the paper the next week read, "Local Girl Turns Cruel Joke into Beautiful Music." Maria kept that newspaper clipping in her violin case. Years later, when she played with professional orchestras around the world, she would look at it and remember that sometimes the most beautiful things in life come from the most unexpected places. And she would always remember Mrs. Adams, who had told her that day in her apartment, "You have found your gift. Now trust it and let it shine." Maria had trusted her gift, and it had changed not only her life, but the lives of everyone who heard her play. The poor girl with the old violin had shown everyone that talent doesn't care about money or social status. It only cares about heart, hard work, and the courage to try.